Hey, it's Larry Smith of the Commander Smiths here with Search for the Spotlight, Gonti Canny Acquisitor. So it's two colorless, black and a green and a blue for a 5/5 Aetherborn Rogue. Spells you cast but don't own cost one less to cast, and whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast this spell. I kind of looked around and played with the idea of the any mana thing, and so anything that does have a stipulation isn't going to work. So something like Jeweled Lotus that can only be used for commander cards cannot that does not count as any type of mana, if you catch my drift. So if it's specifically stating the mana needs to go to that thing, that overrides whatever this is saying. Just getting that out of the way right now. And so one of the things in builds that I saw running around is a lot of people are kind of taking spells and they're casting them from their opponents and stuff like that. And that is a very legitimate thing that you got going on. But I decided that's not really what the commander is doing. The commander wants you to deal damage and steal cards off the top and cast them. And that is if you have something like stolen goods that reveals cards for the next instant or sorcerer or whatever, the next spell you have, and you get to cast it for free, even though that is on theme with Gonti, it kind of isn't. Like when I read the card, it says, I want to be casting opponent spells and I'll get the one less, and I want to be dealing damage to them to get those cards. And so that is what I am aiming to be doing in this deck specifically. So I think you're going to see a lot of cards that you expect that would not be here. The other thing that I want to say is it seems like a really cool thing. I'm down to like 30 cuts needed for the deck. And so that should be just fine. That should be a shorter one, hopefully. Um also like it, thumbs up or whatever, sub, that'd be awesome too. But once or twice per set, I try and make something. Commander Smiths, I'm getting into the tags now, but Commander Smiths is a podcast that's recorded every Monday-ish night here on YouTube, and you can find us on all podcast um places to listen. I think we're out of Podbean, but you can find us on, Apple and other stuff. And then you can get the audio if you just like listening to stuff while you are driving. I think that's the major thing, and or working, because nobody really wants to work anyway, right? um so that would be the thing. So we got Gonti going, Canny Acquisitor. And let's how this goes is I read through all the cards that I have on this list. It's 90 to 100 right now, which is about 10 less than I normally start with. That'll last for 30 to 45 minutes. And then we're cutting as we go along. And I already kind of have an idea on things that I want to be cutting and getting it down to. Some other options other than like casting your opponent's stuff for free. That is, like I said, a legitimate deck strategy out of this. But it's not the way I'm going. There are rogues and there's ninjas, and there's a lot of stuff you could be kind of doing. I'm gonna end up being rogue-esque, but also just like flying focused. That evasion makes it really easy, and oftentimes there's stuff's like tacked onto it, the way that I'm going at least. So there's a little bit there. So I don't have to add in, like, if it's ninjas, they're great for that one time you're ninja-ing, and then you gotta figure out, put in cards that allow them to not be blocked in the future, right? And I didn't wanna do that. I wanted to cast stuff. So, we're gonna be probably pretty heavy in flying. Gonti's cool, though. Alright, I don't remember how I organized this, and it might just be a fucking pile. Alright, this is just gonna be a pile, I think. Alright, one thing that I do want to kind of talk about here is what I wanted to do was deal damage. I want to cast opponent spells. And so what that means is I need evasive creatures and I need a ton of mana. Um and that mana can be in any form, right? So like a Nykthos shrine to Nick or to Nyx, yeah, shrine to Nyx. That can be whatever color, and that's able to just be used a bunch in that regard. Guys, Cradle if you got them, and this is one that I'll highly think about using it just for the mana and being able to cast more stuff. The other thing is if you deal, you can only kind of do it once per turn unless you want to double the triggers or whatever. So like double strike helps. The route I'm probably going to be doing is making multiple Gontis so they all trigger. They also reduce the cost by more than one. Then, so if you got three Gontis out, one damage to one player, you get three of their cards, and all their spells are reduced by three. That sounds pretty good to me, right? Um, and so that's probably the way I'm going to be going is making more Gontis, having evasive creatures, and heavy mana production so that I can cast as many spells as I possibly can. And that's kind of the way that I want to go. But if I'm going to be trying to using all of my mana as much as possible, free spells sound pretty good. And that's a little bit of a theme here just for protection's sake. Normally, I don't play counter spells, and so that probably is something that is high on the cut list for me. But Fierce Guardianship, free counter spell of Gonti's in play. Misdirection, pitch a blue spell, change a spell's target. Another one, good protection one. Submerge. Here is a sub theme. My removal in here is putting permanents or just spells on top of the library, and then I can kind of get them back. So submerge, if they control a forest, I control an island, I can cast it for free, put target creature on top of its owner's library, and then go and steal it. Right? That sounds fun to me. Force of Vigor, pitch a green card, get an enchantment or artifact, and or subtlety, pitch a blue spell or a blue card in your hand, and then exile target card from your or no, that's for the evoke with flash. And then enters the battlefield up to one target creature spell or planeswalker spell. Its owner puts it on the top or bottom. So you have the potential to steal their stuff. Um, Getting into removal for Heartless Conscription, exiling all creatures, and then you can cast your opponent's creatures from exile. So Gonti likes that. Villainous Wealth is probably a card that I really, really liked for a really, really long time. And Gonti, this is one of those spells that I was talking about that you probably won't see, but I do want to play this one. And this is a big reason why I wanted to play this deck. So I'm going to try and keep it in as best as possible. I love it. I love the idea of this card in here. So, Thieving Amalgam. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may manifest the top card of each player's or that player's library. And whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So this is just another way to kind of end the game slowly. As if somebody wrath the board, so because you got such an advantage, they're going to lose some life that way, likely. Brain Stealer Dragon. At the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of each opponent's deck. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. If you cast a spell this way, uh, spend the mana any way that you want. And then they also lose life for the CMC of that. And so, but whenever you cast an opponent's spell. And so that really plays well into that. These two, I'm sure you're like, we're going to see those, right? Notorious Throng, here for the prowl cost with the rogues. Exile X or create X 1/1 Black Fairy Rogue creature tokens with flying, where X is the damage dealt to that opponent this turn, to your opponents this turn. If this spell's prowl cost was paid, take an extra turn after this one. So that's 5 and a blue. Um, for a while, this was a little bit of an extra turn deck. It was trying to get those extra triggers for looking at more cards and stuff like that. And that switched over to copying Gonti in that regard. I tend to not like extra turns because it just takes longer and people tend to roll their eyes. So if I can, I don't like to make it a theme, if that makes sense. Regal Behemoth, 6 mana, 5/5 trample. Whenever it ETBs, you become the monarch. And whenever you tap a land for mana, double or add one. In this kind of deck with so much evasion, you're going to be able to become monarch fairly easy if somebody comes and takes it from you. And then that's that doubling mana, getting a lot of mana out of it, right? Aether Spouts, for each attacking creature, its owner puts it on top or bottom of his or her library. If they put it on top, you get to steal it, right? Aether Spouts. Quantum Misalignment, 5 mana sorcery. Create a token that's a copy of Gonti. And then it has rebounds to do it again. Good way to do it. Sword of Feast and Famine. If this card's kind of in play or anything that's untapping your mana, that allows you to further your board state with your cards along with playing their cards afterwards. So it's a little bit like an extra turn. I tend to think of untapping your land does that. Um, and so I like what's going on there. Having Ghoul Lich, a pay one, you may cast target creature card from your graveyard this turn, from a graveyard this turn. When you cast that card this turn, Having Ghoul Lich gains all activated abilities from the card. So basically, you are casting from graveyards. If it's an opponent's graveyard, it is reduced by one. So that's basically a free activation. That sounds like fun to me. Seedborn Muse, untapping all your lands and creatures during each opponent's turn, which allows you to cast instants that you've already stolen, stuff like that. Arenicus's Vile Duplication. Sorry, I butchered that. But it's a sorcery for 4 mana. Copy Gonti as a token. And then you got Leyline of Anticipation. With all the land untapping, you can cast spells at instant speed. I was thinking that'd be nice. I got Alchemist Refuge in here for that aspect as well. And so it's just being able to, if you're getting so many cards and you're untapping lands on other people's turns, being able to do something with that mana is also nice sometimes. Helm of the Host, get more Gontis. Packed Weapon, 4 mana equipment. As long as it's attached to a creature, you don't lose a game for having 0 or less life. And then whenever equipped creature attacks, draw a card, reveal it, and then the creature gets +X/+X until in a turn, and you lose X life, where X is the card's mana value, and then equip is discard a card. So this is, you're putting it on an evasive creature. It's going to be hard to kill you unless you kill that creature. There was a while where invisible there's a couple of creatures with evasion and hexproof and stuff like that. So that could go really well in here as well. They're probably gone at this point. Knowledge Exploitation, also one of them rogue spells. Prowl for 4 mana. Search target opponent's library for an instant or sorcery card and cast it for free. This is one of those cards that I was saying I don't have a lot of them, and the Prowl is probably going to be going away. This is just, I don't really want to be doing it, even though this would be a perfect deck to put it in. I think I'm just going to cut this right now in that regard. Aegis Will, 4 mana enchantment. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, tap all lands that player controls and untap all lands you control. So within that combat step, if you hit each opponent, your stuff is going to be able to untap. It's going to have 3 untap triggers. That generates a ton of mana. And if you can do that instant speed like Leyline of Anticipation or the Refuge, that's some big stuff right there. You're stealing all their stuff, and you can cast that at instant speed if you get there. If not, you just got some mana untapping. That's not a bad thing either. Bear Umbra, untap your lands on the attack trigger. Umbra with a little bit of protection or the totem armor. And so that's not a bad deal. Draugr Necromancer, 4 mana zombie cleric 4/4. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile that card with a nice counter on it. Instead, you may cast spells from among cards and exile your opponent's own with ice counters on them. And that's a casting, and the cost reduction from Gonti will work there. And mana of any color. So kind of the Lich and the Necromancer kind of doing the same thing, and that's kind of fun. Spark Double, another Gonti. Sakashima, another Gonti. Sakashima 2, another Gonti. Grim Hireling, if you're dealing damage to your opponents, you get treasures. 6 to be exact. If you can hit all 3 of them, a little bit of removal, but unlikely, just generating as much mana with them treasures as possible. Orokai Soul Reaver Ninjutsu, like I said, and it's a rogue, so it's kind of covering both those, but so you can do that. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token and manifest the top card of that player's library. It's kind of like a really bad Grim Hireling, but also you're manifesting, getting more creatures, being able to cast more spells. It's definitely working in here. Hall of Gemstones, a little spicy one here for you. 3 mana enchantment. During each player's upkeep, that player chooses a color. Until end of turn, each mana producing land produces mana of the chosen color instead of its normal color. This is great for you because it doesn't matter what your color like of your mana production is. And so they, if they are trying to cast multicolored spells, need artifacts because this is affecting lands. And so they need artifacts to get their colors, and that just makes it harder. It makes it harder for your opponents to interact on your turn, their turn, whatever as well. And it kind of doesn't affect you, especially if the free spells stay in. So I thought that was a pretty cool one. Hinder, 3 mana instant. It is a counter spell, and if it is countered, they get to put it on top or bottom of their library. Again, you can steal it if they put it on top. Gift of Doom, it is just a protection piece for Gonti, but it has morph, sacrifice a creature, and then if you do that, you can attach it to Gonti, and it gains indestructible and death touch. So, Beastmaster Ascension, just trying to end the game a little bit quicker and make those evasive creatures bigger. Mnemonic Betrayal, exiling all cards from all opponents' graveyards. You may cast those cards this turn, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any type to cast those spells. At the beginning of the next end step, if any of those cards remain in exile, return them to their owner's graveyards. Exile Mnemonic Betrayal. So just getting a lot of access to a lot of different cards in that regard. Growing Rights of Itlamok, basically there for the bad guy's cradle. Yargoth, Blood Sky Sire, 3 mana, 2/3 death touch boast. So whenever it attacks, you can pay 2, and target player, doesn't have to be you, goes and puts something on top of their library, anything, and puts it on top of their deck. And then you kind of hope that maybe you're working with somebody. You're like, hey, do you got something to remove that thing? Oh, you got a swords? Put it on top. I'll steal it, play it, good to go. Right. So it's kind of cool in that regard. Grazalax, Illithid Scholar. Basically, if your creatures get blocked, you can return them to your hand, and if you deal damage to a player once per turn, you can, or combat damage, you can draw a card. So at best, 3 off of this. Opposition Agent. If they search, you can take that search, and that's great. You're able to cast that searching, so it works. Thada Del Acquisitor. You get to go and steal an artifact if it deals damage. It's Island Walk 2/2. And you can cast it, go get a soul ring, steal it from them, play it for free with the Gonti in play. Not a bad deal. Omnath, Locus of Mana. It's just there are a couple of cards that can hold on to mana. And Omnath, I think, is the last one left. But being able to hold on to green mana when you have untapping land with Seedborn Muse, you can charge it up a little bit, and then you can use it in that regard to cast your stuff easier. Play more lands. You're probably going to reveal a lot of lands, so being able to play them gets you ahead quite a bit. So Wayward Swordtooth, getting more lands. Dryad of the Elysian Grove, being able to play more lands. Oh, the other thing too is we make proxies as the Commander Smiths. Adam does some good stuff here. If you become a patron, we give them away. You can check that out on our Patreon. We also have a Discord if you want to join up. That's always a fun place to hang out. Memory Lapse, 2 mana instant, counter a spell. If it's countered, put it on top of their library and then go steal it, right? Expel from Orazka. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If you have 10 or more permanents, you get to put it on top of its owner's library instead. Aether Gust. Choose target spell or permanent that's red or green. Its owner puts it on the top or bottom of their deck. So again, the removal is kind of like trying to put it on top of their deck, which is kind of a fun deal. Mana Maze. 2 mana enchantment. Players can't play spells that share a color with the spell last played this turn. That's pretty sweet because you're going to have a lot of options on a lot of different colors. Now, if it's multicolored, that does make it tough. You're going to be able to hit a lot of stuff, so you're not going to be able to run off a lot of spells. But if you're looking to mess with somebody's how they're casting stuff, if you can cast one of their spells on their turn, that forces them to do something potentially out of order. I see it as a fun card. Mana Drain, counter spell, get the mana for the CMC that you countered. This can be there's like or plasm capture. That's like the 4 mana version of this. But really the colorless is whatever color you need with Gonti in play. Cloak and Dagger, 2 mana equipment, equips 2 rogues for free when those rogues come into play, and then it gets +2/+0 and has Shroud. So it's a Gonti is a rogue. Gonti comes into play, attaches it to for free, or some of the other rogues that have evasion gives it a little bit of a bump too. Not a bad deal. I like that one. Mana, Metamorphose, 2 mana instant, put target permanent an opponent controls on top of its own as library. That opponent may put an artifact, creature, enchantment, or land card from their hand into play. A little bit risky, but sounds a little bit fun. Maybe, maybe. Spell starter sprite, one of those things where I was saying the evasion, cheap, flying, and has a counter spell attached to it when it comes to probably 1 or 2 spells. Um, that's kind of why that's there. Essior Ward Wing Familiar. Commander gets Ward 3. I guess that's not true. It's not Ward. Spells your opponents cast that target one or more commanders you control cost 3 more to cast. Ward would state, or it's countered. And so this is kind of a if they don't have the 3 mana, they get their spell back because it's a mess up. If it's Ward, it's countered and that's their own mess up. So a little bit different, but Mercurial Spell Dancer, 2 mana, 2/1, can't be blocked. And then whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put an oil counter on it. And then whenever the Spell Dancer deals combat damage to a player, you may remove 2 oil counters from it. If you do, when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell and choose new targets. So, and it is a rogue. Not a bad deal. Another rogue, Soaring Thought Thief, 2 mana, 1/3 flying flash. As long as your opponent has 8 or more cards in their graveyard, rogues you control get +1/+0. And whenever one or more rogues attack, each opponent mills 2 cards. So it kind of works with that mnemonic betrayal card that plays from the graveyard as well. If you were stealing more cards from people's graveyards, I think that'd be a lot of fun. You go rogues in my mind. And so we'll see. Horned Lock Whale, 2 mana. The owner of target attacking creature you don't control puts it on top or bottom of their deck, and then it's a 6 mana 6/6 flash ward 2. ETB's tapped unless it's your turn. So it's not a bad deal either. It's removal with a big fatty. Douthai Void Walker. Shadow is another thing that you could kind of do. There's not a lot of options, especially since you're not black white, but so can't block anything without shadow, can't be blocked by anything without shadow. If a card would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, instead exile it with a void counter on it. You can tap, sack, choose an exiled card an opponent owns with a void counter on it, and you may play it this turn without paying its mana cost. So that is one of those free ones, but another one of those cards that are like, ooh, I get to play this card with a reason instead of just being purely good. So it's like solid. I like it. Thieving Skydiver. I don't normally steal stuff, but that's the deck, right? So it's a perfect place to put Thieving Skydiver. Is a rogue, kicker X, flying, and then you can steal an artifact with when you're paying the kicker X spell. Ghostly Pilfer, another rogue, 2/1. You can discard a card and it's unblockable. Whenever it untaps, you can pay 2 to draw a card, and whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than their hand, draw a card, which is commanders, always happen in every game. And then you'll whatever, you know, graveyard, exile, all that kind of stuff will draw you more cards as well. Augury Owl, 2 mana, 1/1 flyer. When it ETBs, you get to scry 3. I like that one a lot. Sage Owl, 2 mana, 1/1 flying bird. Whenever it ETBs, you get to look at the top 4 cards and put them in any order. Spire Owl, same thing. Uh, exactly the same thing as Sage Owl. So top 4 cards, flying 1/1. Rona, Herald of Invasion, 1/3, tap to draw a card and discard a card. Whenever you cast a legendary spell, untap it. And then the flip side of it is whenever it's dealt damage, you can cast a spell. I'm not going to read all that, but it's 5/5 trample. You get to steal spells again. Likeness Looter, 1/1 flying, so it has the evasion on this one. Draw a card, discard a card on the tap, and then you can or pay X, and it becomes a creature with mana value X in your graveyard. Can only do it as sorcery. Looter Il Core, another one of them shadow creatures. Whenever it deals damage, draw a card, discard a card. Also a rogue. Yeah. Ice Fang Coatl. So there is a little bit of snow. It's going to be snow mana just for a couple of cards like Draugr Necromancer, Ice Fang Coatl. So this will draw me a card on the ETB 1/1. And then Death Touch Flying. Flying's the big thing, the evasion. Baleful Strix, basically the same card. 2 mana, 1/1, Flying Death Touch. When it ETBs, draw a card. Bloom Tender, big mana, gonna get me 3 mana by that time. Sanctum Weaver, I always have a couple of um, enchantments in play. It'll always at least be 1, so it's not bad. And if you have 2, 3, 4 enchantments in play, it's gonna do good work for you. Thieving Vermint, 2 mana, 2/1, new card, but it's a Vermint. Death Touch Lifelink, tap, pay 1 life, add 2 mana of any one color, spend it only to cast spells you don't own. So on brand, what's going on? Doc Orluck, Grizzled Genius, 2 mana, 2/3, Bear Druid. Spells you cast from your graveyard or from exile cost 2 less to cast. Not a bad deal. No plotting in this deck, so it doesn't matter. Prosperous Thief, gonna cut this one right now, but whenever a ninja or rogue deals damage to an opponent, you get to create a treasure token. I'm not gonna have enough rogues at this point, so we'll cut that. We'll cut the loose rogue synergies. Bloodforged Battle Axe, 1 mana, come down, equipment. The creature gets +2/+0, and whenever it deals damage, you get to make a copy of Bloodforged Battle Axe. So it's just one of those kind of like Beastmaster Ascension, trying to put more pressure on the board, moving things through. Carpet of Flowers, at the beginning of each of your main phases, each of your main, that's an insane amount of mana. But if you haven't added mana with this ability this turn, you may add X mana of any one color, where X is the number of islands target opponent controls. And so it can create a bunch of mana. It could be used at any point because of Gonti. Like, it doesn't matter what color you choose. You're likely always going to choose, once Gonti's rolling, you do it after combat main phase, just to be able to use that mana pretty well. One with nature, whenever a creature with this aura on it deals damage, you get to go and put a basic into play tap from your deck. Exploration, playing more lands, you're going to get more lands from Gonti. Wild Growth, untapping lands, adding land on here. I didn't want a lot of creatures. I want more land, I think, because of the untapping. Um, Stuff like that. So Wild Growth, that's a shot. Scheming Symmetry. It is a tutor for you and somebody else to put something on top of their library, and then you go and take it potentially. Maybe they forget. Maybe you're working together. Sensei's Divining Top. Get your best draw. Live your best life. Preordain. Blue mana, sorcery. Scry 2, draw 1. Not a bad card. Thieving Fortune. Yeah, I think there might. But basically, Prowl for 1. Look at the top 4 cards. Put one of them into your hand. The rest on the bottom of your deck. Let's cut that one too. I think the random rogue ones just aren't going to be that good unless they're really on brand. But Ponder, great cantrip. Aqueous Form. Gonti gains that indestructibility. Scry 1 when it attacks. Mausoleum Wanderer, basically 1/1 flying for 1, and you're able to count or like sack it to try and counterspell something. There's not many other spirits in here. And so, but you put a Bloodforged Battle Axe or Beastmaster Ascensions going off, it can get a little boost there. Siren Storm Tamer, 1 mana, 1/1 flying, and then sacrifice Siren to counter target spell or ability that targets a creature you or a creature controls. Fairseer, 1 mana, 1/1 flyer, ETB scry 2. Uh, Fairy Dream Thief, 1 mana, 1/1 flying. When it ETBs, surveil 1, and if it's in your yard, you get to pay 3, draw a card, lose a life. Spyglass Siren, 1 mana, 1/1 flying. When it ETBs, create a map token that allows you to explore. Spectral Sailor, 1 mana, 1/1 flying, flash. You can pay for it to draw a card. It's I was thinking it'd be decent with if you have like a mana sink and Gonti is not rolling. Otherwise, it's just a nice evasive creature. Birds of Paradise, flying mana. Let's do this. Delighted Halfling. Gonti's uncounterable, gets you whatever color for legendary spells. So not a bad deal. Whisper Silk Cloak. Equipped creature is unblockable and also has Shroud. So nice for Gonti. Lightning Greaves, Shroud, haste for anything going on. Silver Shroud costume, flash, pay 2, and equip it to a creature. That creature gains Shroud until end of turn, and then the creature can't be blocked. It does have an equip 3, but hopefully you just have an unblockable creature for a while. And then Soul Ring. That's kind of it. Where are we at? 30 minutes? Wow, flying. So yeah, that was all in CMC order. We went from big to small. I'm going to be really careful with my water Nalgene right now. It's not on the table anywhere near, because I spilled it on my Riku deck 2 weeks ago. So, we know I cut what 3 cards, 1, 2, 3. Let's put this into the order of what's going on. So mana, draw, stuff like that. So protection, mana, that's protection, protection, protection. Manas, that's a draw. I would consider that a little bit of a draw. So surveil, scrying, all kind of going there. Protection. And we'll just have to see what the cantrips are needed. I don't know if we need any, if we have enough flying things that do that. Exploration, one with nature, carpet flowers. Get aggressive. Be aggressive. We might have enough there. Draws. That's a removal. I consider stealing removal to that degree. If you're stealing something off the board, they put mana into it. If you're stealing something from their deck, I would consider that card advantage. Killing light or graveyards, which doesn't really work with mnemonic betrayal, but we'll see. Whatever. Removal. What are you? You're a little bit of a boost. What is copying? I don't even know what copying is. Oh, that's protection, protection, removal, protection. This I'd probably use as removal, a little bit more aggressive because of um, the mana production, and sometimes you just need it. Mana maze, removal, removal. Do that. More manas. Stealing, that is card advantage, which generally will probably generate ramp. That draw. That's more of a ramp card. That just produces a lot of, card advantage. That's protection. Probably that. That's probably what? I don't know. I don't know what that is. That's both. So I would put that in a category of both. That is just mana at this point. Where are we putting our Gontis? Does that show up? It does. Multiple Gontis will Draugr is casting from the graveyard, untapping. A little bit of that's draw. Oh, that's random. More mana, graveyard, mana, doot, mana. What are you? You're next to turn. All right. Do I want this card? I guess is the question. It's 6 mana, extra turn, bunch of little fairy rogues. Um, not entirely sure if I wanna keep it because it's not a lot of rogues at this point. There are some, but it feels a little bit like a 4 mana, create a bunch of tokens. We'll cut it. That's card advantage. It's card advantage. That's definitely card advantage. Removal. Removal, removal, removal. Protection, protection. So we have I can kinda look at these piles and I can go, let's see, 1, 2, these are probably 2 on their own. Thieving Amalgam can go up there. I wouldn't call that card advantage, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, 25. 25 is too many. I like to be in between 15 and 20 in that regard. So I think we have enough cheap flyers that get us something that we can cut preordain, ponder, and um those can at least go. So they're down to 22. There's staples that I can cut because there's just it's a little bit of the theme of being able to have enough card advantage there at the end or at the bottom or at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's actually read this one. 5/5 trample. Whenever a source deals damage to Rona, that source's controller exiles a card from their hand at random. If it's a land card, put it into the battlefield under your control. Otherwise, you can cast it without paying its mana cost. So it is a stealing card. It's a drawing and discarding. Um, it I like it at this point. I'm down with it. Does that it does have to be a sorcery for the transforming, which is a little rough. Same thing with like looter. Hear me out. Cut green, add red, make it Grixis. Um, who do you want to be the commander? Is that what you're saying? Who are you gonna steal stuff Grixis? And then it's just gonna be it ruined the video, right? No, no, I don't do partners, and that's nobody wants to watch that 20 years later, nobody wants to watch that pairing, right? Come on. Come on. Let's be real here. I'm cutting more rogue stuff, so I don't know how much I care about. I think we could potentially get rid of likeness looter, even though I really like the idea. I just don't have any way of really playing from my graveyard. Um, and so that part isn't as enticing to have like a lot of it going on. So let's cut likeness looter, brain stealer, 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, mnemonic betrayal kind of makes me want like I feel like it could or should be cut, but I do think it's probably gains a lot there. Varagoth still makes sense. Um, yeah. All right. All right. So I should state that I do the rogue thing is a dead idea at this point. I don't care if it's a rogue or not. And that should help. Um, all right. We're still gonna have to make some cuts from card advantage, but let's look at our mana. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, 21, 22. 22? That's better than I thought it would be. But Regal Behemoth, doubling manas. I like Feast of Famine, Seedborn Muse, Nature's Will, Bear, Umbra. Like that for the protection as well. But Grim Hireling, Growing Rights, Thada, Omnath, Wayward, Sanctum Weaver, Thieving Varmint, Death Touch Lifelink. Makes it so I don't hate it. Dock Orlock, Carpet of Flowers, One with Nature. The two that I'm thinking is Delighted Halfling and Wild Growth. Probably. Let's cut those two. That brings us down to 20 in ramp. We do want to be heavy on ramp, so we don't want to be in 15. We want to be closer than 20, 220. 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, we're at 20. All right. Be roughly happy about that. Um, let's look at removal. Let's see here. I do okay. Let's shrink the amount of piles we have. But Lich, Necromancer, I like both of these going in right now. They're very on flavor at this point. We got thieving. I still like anticipation, Hall of Gemstones, Mercurial, Spell Dancer. Do I care about that? It does have unblockable and the potential to double spells. Instants and sorceries. I'm going to be able to steal stuff. I'll have to see how many instants and sorceries I actually have that I'd want to double. Because, like, Fierce Guardianship isn't something that I really care about doubling at that time. So we'll keep that for now. And I like the boosts, I think, as well. There's not a lot in these two, but since we're not caring about rogues, we can probably cut that right now. A rogue. Yep. All right, we can cut that. All right. Let's go with the cloning, but I like the idea of quantum misalignment, duplication, Helm of the Host, Spark Double, Sakashima, Sakashima. So I think these four are automatic in. I really like them. I love them. I like them a lot. Irenicals. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that too much to ask? Do I need to cut one of these? Hear me out. Do I need to cut one of these? For now, I'll keep it. We're probably gonna have to go through and see how many I got. How many do I have cut? If I have to cut, it'll be one of these two. I want enough frequency to have a handful of what's going on. So, but right now, I kind of want to do that. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 cuts so far. We're doing all right. All right. Protection bit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's do the obvious ones that I really like. I like hinder, cloak. Well, this one's nice for Gonti because he is a rogue. All right. I don't know. Spell starter sprite, Essior, Mausoleum, Siren, Cloak, Greaves, Shrouded Costume. So these three are what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These might actually be cuts. I still like the idea of Gift of Doom. Gonti can just be a blocker all day. Um, but let's cut those free spells at this point, unfortunately. Oh yeah, we'll want to do CMC after this one. All right. Removal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12, 13, 14. What I really like. So top, that's free. That's on the top. I can cast it. Top, top, top. Just kind of I think I probably have enough. We can get rid of Force of Vigor. So the free spell idea is probably getting cut at this point. Sometimes it's easy when you can block stuff together. And if you're like, you know what, the free spells probably aren't needed, and then you can just kind of like cut them as they appear as you're going through. Um, so yeah, I think all of those are essentially gone at this point. I still like Mana Drain, Delphi, and Mana Maze for sure. Heartless, Conscription. And then so the question ends up being like, I do plan on having like you have a Maya Cradle of Growth in here. And so if I have that, it's creating for us. Sometimes I've had it where Submerge in like my Calamax deck is like bad. It's not a good 5 mana spell, if you're hearing what I'm saying. I like Expel from Raska, Memory Lapse. I like Subtlety, so that is a free spell, but and then Aether Spouts for sure. I think Metamorphose, them being able to put something into play sounds probably just bad for me. So we can cut, I think, Submerge and Metamorphose in the long in this tail end right here. Aether Gust as a colored hate spell. All right, choose target spell or permanent that's red or green. Its owner puts it on the top or bottom of their deck. And this has to be attacking, and this can just steal. Does have flying. I do like that. It steals likely, you know, a soul ring, a greaser boots. Um, and in the later game, what is it stealing? Be a lot, but excuse me. Um, we can cut those. I think we cut these three. Let's look at our removal at this point. Let's see. Two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. That's probably okay. I don't love it. I don't hate it. All right. CMC 5. We'll call that free. Twos. That's up there. Oop. Twosies, woozies. Boots didn't make it, just needing to cut stuff. I'd rather have it be free equip in this regard. So, or in this deck. But I love boots. Just I think Greaves is a little bit better in this deck. 5. That just is a high mana. 4, 4, 4. 1 and 2 to equip. Okay. 3, 7. That will more likely just be 4 for me. 5, 4. One or more creatures you control deal combat damage. Okay. So it doesn't have to be. All right. All right. That's not bad. We will consider that a 4. 7. Bop. 4. 3 plus. Really, this is a huge spell as well. Let's be realistic. 3, 2. Like a big reason, and that it's a terrible thing being like, oh, I want to play all these staples that everybody plays, but it makes a ton of sense in this deck, and it's something they're cards that I don't play. So Voidwalker, Opposition Agent, stuff like that. That all sounds interesting to me in this deck specifically, not all the time, if that makes sense enough. We gotta run on ones here, huh? Twos. Fours. All right. I'm gonna take another drink. All right. Let's see here. How many have we cut so far? Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 18. We're probably looking at another like 10-ish cuts, and we might be down to where we need. This is going to be my shortest deck building video. I've had a little bit more time than normal to think about it because of the flood that Riku had. I just took a while to dry it out and more time than what I have. So so this is the high CMC one. This is generally going to be a bit bigger. If we want to rationalize it, maybe put that at the 6th spot, but still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To me, they all make a ton of sense, but this might be a little fat, if that makes sense. But maybe we have enough mana production to make all of this work. But all of this I like in here. Like there are reasons why I'm playing the deck. So Helm of the Host, Regal Behemoth, both of them. So this is cloning Gonti, which I want to do. I don't have Helm of the Host in almost any deck. And I haven't played it in a long time. Regal Behemoth. I probably like them both, but in that rationalizing, let's go with cutting quantum misalignment because we were saying one of the two. So we have one, two, three, four, five instances of cloning. Aether spouts. Adam's got me good with this one. Hemigal Lich, Seedborn Muse, Sort of Feast and Famine. Not cutting as much as I thought I'd be at this point. All right, the four spot, two, three. Packed weapon, something that I want. I like it. I like the idea. It's not drawing me a lot of stuff, but that idea that stealing stuff people don't like. And so is that something that I'm going to have to deal with? One, two, three, four. Yeah, that was four in. So we have five instances of cloning, which is I Nature's Will. Three Draugr. Is Ley Line of Anticipation something that I want to put in there? I do think I mean, Seedborn Muse is the only thing that's really doing untapping during opponent's turn. Is that something? But also Nature's Will is something that I wanna kinda have go off. It's a good question. Keeping them at this point. Growing Rights of Itlamok, we'll keep that. Theta Del makes sense. Omnath at this point looks a little weird, but I do think it fits in here. Um, just saving mana, getting big. Wayward Swordtooth, yeah. Dryad, Opposition Agents, Grazilax, Beastmaster Ascension, Hinder, Whisper Silk Cloak. I like them all. All right, two spot. Bloom Tender, Sanctum Weaver, just trying to get mana. Looking at this again, Thieving Varmint. Let's what the varmint was doing with her pocket watch. Elsa wasn't sure she even wanted it back. Humping it? Should have been a rat. Varmint. Um, so I guess the question ends up being 2 mana. There's just as good a cards at 2 mana that can create 2 mana that have potentially more, but less drawback. So let's cut the varmint at this point. But Doc makes a ton of sense. 2/3 for 2 mana. Yeah. Strix, Codal, Core, Rona, Owl, whoo, Pilfer, Spell Dancer. We'll have to see how many of those. Because I still like the idea of it. I just want to know if it's like going to go onto a creature that can attack, or is it just sitting back with Gonti? Is that what's happening? Sprite, Essior, Greaves, Mana Drain, Voidwalker, Mana Maze, Memory Lapse, and Spellform Oraska. I'm alright with all those at this point too. Carpet of Flowers. No way to turn things into islands at this point in this deck. It'd be great. Because I do plan on having I was gonna have Urborg, but I had a couple of like swamp um pumps at this point. What's up, Scott? Thanks for joining. One with nature, get me lands, exploration. Yeah. Ring, bop, sailor. All these little evasive creatures is nice. Aqueous form. Is that something that I care about? Probably. So I have 3 instances in so I have Whisper Silk, the silver costume, and form, but really they're all for Gonti. I like the other 2 just with the protection. Um there really aren't many creatures where I'm like, "Oh, I'd like to get that through." So let's get aqueous form through. Um, Top is always hard to cut for me. Symmetry, battle axe, evasive creature, evasive creature. Putting something on top. All right, let's do a quick count and see how many cards we actually have in here at this point. We want to be around like in between 65 and 70. We'd like to get less, but let's go. One, two. I have 34 land in this deck as well at this point. I could probably do more, but maybe I'm assuming I'll take more. But three, four, 20, 20, 20. All right, 60, 11. All right, so we are at 71 right now. I 34, 35, which means if we're at 65 cards, we need 6 cuts. That's not bad at all here at this point. We're gonna go into card types at this point, and just see who is what, and that allows us to see how many rogues there kind of are. And let's adjust this a little bit, and then see what kind of works where. What is the likelihood of something happening? I mean, there isn't a lot that are going to be working together at this point. Um, so like, not worried about rogues. I'm not worried about. The only thing I'm really truly worried about is getting damage through and casting spells. So we kind of need to see how many evasive creatures we have. Really, we're talking flying, but let's see here. Enchantment. 2, 3. Instant. Sorcery, creature, sorcery. All right, so not a lot of spells. So that Mercurial Dancer probably isn't going to do much for me personally. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, a lot of like, think about Villainous Wealth after that. That'd be huge. Demonic Betrayal ain't going to do much. Heartless Conscription, not much. So really, we're talking 1, 2, 3 cards at this point. It's not going to be good for that, that. So really, it's only going to work with 4 cards in my deck, which is rough. So when we're talking about that, we're probably, let's get down to the 2s. When we're looking at the Spell Dancer, it's only going to work with 4 cards in our deck, even though it's unblockable. That's a big hit against it at this point. We won't get rid of it because you're stealing opponent's stuff, right? That doesn't mean it just goes off because it is unblockable, and that's always good. And again, oh man, that Mnemonic Betrayal just doesn't seem very good in this deck. It's something I want to do. Just think if you can just steal a bunch of artifacts. I just don't have any like artifact removal, really any creature removal. I don't have much mill. So it'll only be good for the amount that the game has happened. So I can't like do much more with it. You may cast those cards with this turn. So it's any cards. There's at least one out there that's like permanence or whatever, and that's not something that I want to deal with. All right. I'm fine with those sorceries at this point. Either spouts. I like counterspell, counter 3 counterspells. Look at me. I got subtlety. I mean, they can get it back with hinder and memory lapse. I like them both. Aether spouts, not a lot of instance, and that's kind of why I want the ley line of anticipation in there as well. But I like all these. I have no problem with these. Let's take a look at the enchantments. Not a lot of enchantments. So the um Sanctum Weaver isn't going to get me a lot of like a lot of mana. It might, 2 is likely, but how much for 3? Also stealing stuff. How many? I don't think I have many enchantment creatures or other forms of enchantments. So, Bear Umbra, Nature's Will, Growing Rights of Itlamok, Hall of Gemstones. Like I like that. This turns into a land, so that can kind of turn against me in that regard. Um, I do like some of these though. Like, let's stick around. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Really down on the nitty gritty, right? Only 6 cards left to cut for Gonti Canny Acquisitor. This is I'm gonna cut Leyline just to move things forward and kind of but it's something if I'm like, "Oh, I have so much mana," this is something that I go back to and definitely add in. It just depends on what it is. Like, how much mana are you actually producing? I have dreams and hopes and wishes. That doesn't mean it's actually gonna happen, right? I like Bear Umbra will let's just keep that out so we can I think Hollow Gemstones is perfect in this one. Beastmaster Ascension, Mana, Maze, Carpet, one with Nature, Exploration. All right. This is very creature heavy. And I'm normally pretty creature heavy, but this does feel like quite a bit. Feast, Packed Weapon seems solid. 4 mana, discard a card, then just draw a card right off of it. It's a creature with flying, more than likely. Cloak. All right. So Cloak and Danger is something that probably needs to get checked out. How many actual rogues are we looking at here? Yeah, all these artifacts make a ton of sense other than that one. All right. How many rogues do we have in here as a count? Um 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12. That's respectable. And there's definitely some rogues that I'm like the let's see here. Like Grim Hireling would be fantastic to have it on. That Adele would be really nice. Yargoth, Mercurial Spell Dancer, the Luteral Core would be nice. Like this, it'd be nice on stuff. I'd be Douthy Voidwalker, Gaunty. I'd be super happy with it there. All right, I think we keep that around. I think we're rogue enough to make it relevant. Um, so we have 5 cuts left. Let's verbalize that a little bit. All right, let's take a look at the creatures and we'll do this. Let's see here. Maybe break it up into CMC order at this point and just see what goes where. How aggressive does the deck need to be when it comes to like what's the CMC curve? You need enough creatures to make it kind of go through. These are all the ones. And then I'll probably have to go through and just look at how many evasive creatures there actually are on here as well. Because I want to be able to hit like 3 of them by the time I'm playing Gonti. Gonti doesn't have to come out real quick, but I want at least 2 out. Both at 7. Like I said, that's expensive, but playing opponent's creatures. Um, okay, here's is that I think I've reasoned out mnemonic betrayal. So that'll be 1 of 5. So I think we got to cut mnemonic betrayal. We'll get rid of that because it's basically a one shot. And then we have Heaven Ghoul Lich and the Necromancer, and that's casting creatures from opponents' graveyards. And I think that's enough graveyard interaction without any help of like milling or mass killing and stuff like that. So I think we're there. And a lot of times, if you're truly looking for cuts, you keep Betrayal and cut the other 2 creatures. But I do think I like both of them going on. Yep. Like I said, Necromancer can stay in. Hireling for sure. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure and manifest the top card of that player's library. That seems pretty decent. Seems pretty decent. A little bit of ninjutsu. I would like to fit a little bit more in here. That'd be nice. Just being able to pick up some of the birds and the ETB effects. But more land, a little bit of a battery, steel artifacts, Grazilax, draw, Fargoth, opposition agent. All right. This card always worries me a little bit. Like, how much am I actually going to draw off of it? I don't want to pay the 2 to draw the card. I want stuff. I want them to trigger it, and it just I don't see it happening a whole ton. Um, that can be cut. Let's cut that. I think I'm more likely to be happy with that. Like I can just a 2 on unblockable that can double up a spell if I so choose after some damage. I think I'd be relatively happy with that. Rona can steal something. Looteril Core because I got rid of Likeness Looter. Ice Fang, Baleful Strix, Dock Warlock, Sanctum Weaver. Yep. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3 more cuts left. All of those. Birds of Paradise. There's a shot that it becomes like an evasive beater with like the axe, or it's unlikely, but it can be there. All you get it in. All right, let's gather this up as well. All right. How many cards here can be evasive hits? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So we have 18 essentially at this point. I don't know how much I love that. I'd probably like a little bit more. Even though I just cut one. Hmm? Hmm? All right. I think what I'm going to do is just go into what they do piles, make a little bit of count, see what else can be cut, and then call it from there. It's going to be a short night. Water. All right. Clones and graveyard. Manas. We need to expand Add a little bit. Mana. That is bloop. Advantage. Draw. Mana. Mana. Plenty of mana here. Drawing. Light protection. This is probably more mana, huh? That is mana. That is removal. Protection. Draw. Draw. There. Draws. Protections. All right. Yeah, plenty to 15 card advantage ish esque. 2, 3, 4, 5. A little bit of protection. Not much removal there, which is fine. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. For creatures, yeah. Dock, Orlock, Sanctum Weaver, playing more lands. Omnath, do I care about that? I mean, it makes sense to me. My problem is like if I had like a lantern in here, that could be nice. What else is there? We'll see. Grim, Regal Behemoth. Is that something that I care about? Getting that Monarch is kind of fun. I probably need like a heroic intervention in here as well. People are going to want to kill my stuff. All right, let's put everything else out there. Do a little bit of a count. Move forward. Protections. That's a draw. Put that on a hate card. Bloop. All right, that's it. Let's look at our draw. 1, 2, 10, 11, 12, 19. It's at least under that 20 mark. We could probably get rid of something. But I want to play them. All right. Manas. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 19, 20. Again, I want a lot of it. And there's untapping, playing more, a little bit of real mana, like acceleration. So I think right there, we're with it. Removal, 1, 2, 6, 7. All of that is respectable. I'm pretty happy with all that. Putting stuff on top. Let's look at the protection. Cloak, Greaves, Costume, Dagger, and then some sacks. Kind of like counterspell type stuff. Top counter. I don't think I have any other. I should have checked how many fairies we have. That's fine. So if I'm looking at this, haste and shroud. Shroud for a turn, unblockable. Shroud +2/+0. Unblockable. And shroud. I think I want to keep these 3. We can cut the cloak. All right. That's at least a cut. We have 2 more cuts left. Just these 2 boosts. I don't have any problem with them. We'll keep them in there. Same thing with Draugr and Lich. We'll steal creatures and be happy about it. Let's look at these 3, 4 randoms. Amalgam, Spelldancer, Gemstone, Maze. All those make a ton of sense other than Spelldancer. Maybe that's something we get rid of. Can't be blocked. Yeah. We'll cut that. We got plenty of flying. Hopefully that's enough. Got Did I cut? I thought I got rid of. Where'd that go? Oh, there it is. All right. The clones. Two, one, two, three, four, five. Yep, all that kind of makes sense to me. And really, we're just looking for one more cut. We've kind of already gone through everything. I'm not going to bore you with like the total details here. We're at hour 15. I'm going to go through my mana base real quick just so you see it. Wander's Enclave, Urborg, you have a Maya, Scryan Sheets, Minas Morgul to give Shadow, Rivendell for scrying, Shocks, Alchemist Refuge, like I talked about, Creeping Tar Pit for an unblockable 3/2, Snow Lands, 3 apiece, Command Tower, Ash Barrens, Fable Passage, Vista, Guy's Cradle, Proxy, the Black Gate for unblockable Shizus to give a little bit of their duels, fetches, Rogue's Passage for the unblockability thing again. So yeah, looking through that again, I think that was good to cut Whisper Soak Cloak. And that's probably it. Everybody, thanks a ton for coming out, watching, interacting. Any questions? Just leave a comment. And we have Moxfield. We go to Commander Smith's on Moxfield. You'll be able to look at all of our deck lists, especially this once it gets updated and finished. If you enjoyed, thumbs like up. We kind of do this all the time as much as we can and greatly appreciate it. All right. Have a good night. Bye.